Finish this sentence. I'll start with you, Brandon. I knew I was officially a dad when
Oof. Oh, when I was waking up in the middle of the night changing diapers.
you changed a lot of diapers.
A lot of diapers. Yeah.
What about you? It's like I knew I was officially a dad when.
Yeah, I think that's probably when it's like day number 3 or 4 or 5 after making it home from the hospital for the first time. And those first couple of days, there's like the adrenaline of first leaving the hospital. When I first left, I was like, "Y'all sure you ready for us to go? We can stay for another couple of days. We can just." But then getting home, it's like when the baby wakes up, I was on point, energetic, but then by day like 5 or 6, and then having to go back to work, and then the baby wakes up every 2 to 3 hours or something, and I feel bad for the mom, so it's like, okay, no, I got it, and then work came. It's like, oh yeah, okay, this is it. This is really it.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Get Real with Alexis. I'm your host, Alexis, and I am so excited about our conversation today. Now, I'm usually really excited to chat with my son, Brandon, but today we are joined by his best friend, Isaac. Isaac, did I say that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. You sure did.
I like that. Isaac. We're going to have a candid conversation about fatherhood, friendship, grief, family traditions, and the lessons that they are passing to their children. Now, while both of these men have recently experienced loss, our focus is on living, loving, laughing, and serving and carrying forward the best of those that we've lost. So you're going to learn a lot about Brandon and Isaac during the course of our conversation, but I just want to share that these are two of the hardest working husbands, fathers, and sons that I know. They're also men with an unshakable commitment to their faith in God. And most importantly, or as importantly, they are co-hosts to their own podcast, Get Busy, the Get Busy podcast. Did I say that right?
You did.
That's it.
Sounds good.
The Get Busy, Bizzy,
Yep.
the Get Busy podcast. So make sure you look at them as well. They put out a lot of content. So welcome, Brandon and Isaac.
Hey.
Thank you for having us, Mom.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. I am so excited to talk to you all. So first of all, tell us how long you've known each other and how did you meet?
Man, so we met back in the 7th grade at, was it 8th? I'm sorry, 8th grade at Pinckneyville Middle School, the school that you made me go to, that I hated.
1995.
Wow.
94.
8th grade.
94, 95.
94, 95. Yeah, we met in a trailer. We had a class together. I don't know if it was like a language class or
It was like some sort of gifted kind of course that they put us in. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but I remember like getting chosen to be in that class.
Yeah.
Then
I got forced in. My mom, it's just the principal of the school, so a little bit of nepotism. But
hey, take it how you put it.
hey, yeah.
So tell us how long have you been married and how many children do you have?
All right, so we're going on 17 years.
Woo!
7.
Yeah, we're up there.
Wow.
And I have 4 kids. My oldest, Malia, who's 14, Joelle, who's about to turn 13, Chrisette, who is about to turn 11, and Genesis, who's 8.
Okay. And I have 4 also. 15 years old, Anaya. 12 years old, Isaiah. 10 years old, my youngest son, Milas. And our baby girl so far, Naomi, she's 5. And one on the way. So that's news to everybody. You hear it here first.
You hear it first, guys.
But Yes, one of the way. But we've been married for 5 years to my lovely wife Nadia, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
What was the most dad thing that you've done recently?
Whew,
The most dad thing.
that's a great question. For
So
me, I think it was probably dancing and singing in public. I took the kids to Washington D.C. and Universal Studios last couple of weeks, and I always try to embarrass them when I can. My oldest daughter, she's at that point now where it's not necessarily funny. When dad's doing silly stuff, now it's like, oh my gosh.
It's more embarrassing, huh?
Yeah, but the youngest is still like, "Ah, that's so silly." So,
Yeah.
just doing some little silly singing and dancing, but belting it out publicly in the supermarket, or we actually did a few times. So that's it's kind of something that I do, and hold on to them so that they like, no, stuff.
How about you, Brand? What's your dad thing?
so for me, it's been just giving a lot of unsolicited advice to my kids, especially Malia and Joel, because they're getting more involved. So Malia, she's going to be in high school. She just started doing cross country, and she thinks she knows more than me. Like I was an athlete once upon a time. I'm trying to give her, show her the ropes and like, okay, don't overwork in this area. Oh, you need to start doing this, and she thinks she knows everything. And then Joel, like more soccer has produced like a lot of opportunities for life lessons. So sometimes he'll listen, sometimes he don't want to hear it. His body language is kind of like, it's like you looking like you know. I'm like, what's that face for? What's that face for? What you thinking? You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm just trying to like give them as much as I can, while they're young, and try to get them to the right place. So that's my story. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. What's one thing your kids think you're good at that you're actually not good at?
I think they think I could fix like everything, and I can't fix everything. I can fix some stuff. And a lot of times I got to go to YouTube, and it's like, "You worked this miracle. We did this. Can you fix that?" It's like, man, no. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, they think I can fix almost everything. I don't know. Maybe I embellish in some of my
I mean,
stories.
you you do a lot of stuff. They see you with a lot of hands
I
on
do,
stuff.
yeah, they do.
You
They
know,
see me do a lot of stuff, but I'm still, it's funny because I still have a lot of insecurities and a lot of things that I can and can't do, and they don't know anything about that. So they just think I can do everything. Just cool.
yeah.
So I'll take it.
What about you, Issa?
So my kids think that I'm stronger than I actually am. They still jump and climb, and my youngest, she's she wants piggyback rides and to be carried all the time. Like, and for large distances, I just found it out when we were walking all over the place, and you know, and I do it. I try to, and I always show up, but she has this idea, and my youngest son Miles too. Yeah, one day I'm gonna be strong like that. I'm, one of the strongest people in the world. I'm like, all right, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I like that you think that, but now I gotta, do the work to kind of make sure that I meet the standard in their mind as it continues to grow. So,
I say the same thing. 'Cause we work out in our workout room, like training Joel and now Malia. So me and Joel today, like we were hitting some weights after we did some core exercises. And he's like looking at me lift. It's like, how come you got so many muscles? I'm like, oh, thank you. You know, this is like the over the hill me, but I'll take the compliment. I'm like, hey man, you'll get there once you hit puberty, your muscles, he's
And
getting it
it's
too. Trying to get
beautiful because you're dads and you're big and you're strong, and that's just how they see you. And that's good.
that is good.
it is,
You're
yeah.
big and strong and protective, and you can do anything until
Absolutely.
you until they get older. And like you said with Malia, then you don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is.
Okay, so if your children, I'll start with you this time, Isaac. If your children were describing you in 3 words, what would they say?
Fun, patient, probably strict.
Consider you a strict disciplinarian.
Yeah, but not. I don't. I think they understand the line, but I think they look at their moms as more of a disciplinarian because their moms might vocalize it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I hold the line where it's like, well, I'm not wavering. It's the answer is going to be no, but I present it in a nicer way. But
Yeah.
it's still there.
But they know that no means no.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. How would your children describe you, Brandon? 3 words.
They were probably saying funny, loving, strong.
Yeah. Who between the 2 of you, who's the stricter parent?
I'm gonna be honest. Oh, go ahead.
Nah, I'm gonna say Isaac.
Really?
And the reason why I say that is because Anaya, and it seemed, Anaya is only like a year older than Malia, but it feels like she's a couple of years older because like a lot of the like teenage girl stuff, he's kind of experienced first. And so, and I was actually having this conversation with Xanta last week because I have a friend whose daughter I follow on Instagram, and she has some like videos and pictures that are really like questionable. I'm like, hey man, you need to talk to your girl. Like her daughter's on the internet, like, doing this and these type of looks and poses. It's like, nah. So with Isaac, man, if she just has a certain look, it could be a headshot. If it's like bro, he's calling her immediately. I was actually here. He was here at the house when he did it. And he called her like, hey, take that picture down right now. Find another picture. Yeah, no, we ain't doing that. Like super strict. So like, I actually follow like his lead when he does that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's how I'm gonna do it. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I actually follow him because he's had his kid first. And I'm able to like kind of take his example, and I really do love like the old school parenting. Like
Yeah.
I can't do the soft when you're not supposed to be soft. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when I had Joel at soccer, we had some coaches who were like, they're like volunteer coaches, but they were like really soft on the kids. I came up playing football where it's like strict. There's no walking on the field. There's no nothing. These coaches like these kids do anything. I was getting so mad. And so like, I appreciate like the old school, even with like when your neighbors used to like parent you back, we were in Cleveland, like I couldn't just go down the street and act crazy.
Right.
It was like
Right.
either they're gonna do something about it and then tell you that you're gonna do something about it after that, you know what I'm saying? So like I'm gonna say it's the stricter parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to piggyback
What's
off
the
of that,
pri
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Isaac.
So it's funny you say that because I think that I get a lot of insight. So I'm always going to deep for like, I'm always going to Brandon for ideas and questions and thoughts because he's been married longer than I've been married. And when it comes to parenting, I look at it through my view and I have to go to Nadia to see how she looks at it through her view. And sometimes we look at things the same way and sometimes we don't, but I have somebody like a soundboard that I can bounce ideas off of and get like advice and counseling, like the time with Isaiah. You know what I mean? It's like, look, hey, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Can you jump in? And so that's honestly, one of the best things in life is having somebody that you have been rocking with for 30 plus years, that knows is 100% down for you, knows is a man of Christ, checks off all the boxes as far as a good charactered individual. You know what I mean? It just allows for this life is very real. It's not for punks. And parenting is a challenge. Marriage is a challenge, but it makes it so much easier when you have somebody else that you can. That's why we're here for community. That's what community is all about. And so when you know that you have somebody that's in your corner.
What surprised you most about becoming a dad? Were there any surprises?
You know what? I kind of knew a little bit of like the type of dad I was going to be. I remember I was having this conversation with my cousin before I had Malia. And he was like, when he found out I was having a girl, he was like, oh, she's going to be wrapped around, or you're going to be wrapped around her finger or whatever that terminology is. And he's like, it didn't make sense to me. And then when I had her, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not you know what I'm saying? I'm just who I am. Like I kind of knew who I was going to be as a parent, kind of in that wide aspect, but like.
Well, let me get some clarification. So when Malia is your first child, and
Yeah.
of course she's a girl, are you saying she had you wrapped around her finger or not?
Not.
And has she had you wrapped around her finger ever since?
I want to say never, but okay, you can judge. All right, so this situation. So when we were at our last house and we were looking at moving and we were going to move out of the school district, Malia was like really upset. She started crying because she's gonna miss her friends, and like it hit me in my gut. And so I immediately started like looking at houses in our same school district when the whole 3 years prior we were like planning to move out toward like Johns Creek, Alpharetta area. And so that was the first time I looked in this school system, which is the reason why we're in this house right now is because Malia got upset. So maybe that's an example of like,
I
I
remember you
don't think
called me
so,
when that
Brand.
happened.
Let me just take a second to clarify. You were trying to make the best decision for your family, for your child, for your children. That's all
yeah,
that was. Wrapped around is what happens with most grandmothers. You know,
okay.
they
Oh, then
wrap,
no, they're
when
definitely not.
when it's
No.
hard for us to say no to them, that's what that saying means.
Okay, then no, I'm not. Yeah. So sometimes it is. There are times where I don't like saying things that's going to like upset them or interrupt their day. I don't know why that is, but I know that I have to push through and do it. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know, I guess I didn't know how afraid I was going to be when they got here. So I'm really, the more I see, because their childhood is so, the world they live in is so different than ours.
Absolutely.
And I feel like, okay, from generation to generation, like, mom, your childhood was way different than mine was. But I feel like our childhoods are probably closer together to each other than what my childhood was and what my kids is because
100%.
of technology, internet, social media, a lot of stuff going on in schools, and a lot of gender ideology, all the stuff we got to face now, and the things we got to have conversation. And there's so much like information overload, and you don't know what they're talking about with their kids, and they got cell phones in their pockets, and so it's really just like I didn't know how. I'm really concerned about like what their future is going to be. I don't tell
Yeah.
them that because I don't want them to be
Yeah.
afraid, but I really am kind of like concerned about like how they're going to navigate the difficulties of this life that
Mm-hmm.
I never had to navigate.
Isak, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think that's very good information because that's so real. I don't think that any of my kids have me wrapped around my finger either, or whatever it is. It's to me, right is right and wrong is wrong. So if you no, I'm not going to give you extra candy if you don't need extra candy. No, you just had whatever. Like it's never been a thing that's been very difficult for me in that stance. But when it comes to certain little things, I might not. Okay, today's been a pretty good day. Maybe it's Friday and it's getting a little late, but well, Daddy, can we have a sleepover tonight? It's like I'm tired. I don't feel like going and making big tents in the living room, But yeah, it's gonna we're gonna get up at it's gonna be 12 o'clock before we go to bed, But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll do that, So I'll give in, in areas, but when it comes to things like I said with Anaya, and this is an area I'm still working on because when I was 15, I could go to the mall and, go to the movies with my friends. And I don't think my mom had the same level of this. My mom knew who all my friends were, so
Mhm.
that was the thing. I know who all of Anaya's friends are, but I still, you know, being aware of how much is out there, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still struggling, with like,
Sure.
okay, okay, well, you guys can go to the mall, but me and Nadia will be in the mall also. And, you
Mm-hmm.
know, okay, you guys can go, do your thing and be in the store over there. We'll be over in this store and kind of be entering in the area.
Yeah.
I'm just not there with I'm just gonna drop you off and leave you yet because nobody's gonna have to cry my tears if something crazy goes on. So
Yeah.
that's that one thing. So I really appreciate that old school parenting too, because there are principles that are timeless, regardless of like how different the the day and age looks, the principles are still the same, right? And so
Mhm.
like just because people were on punishment or were told no, or their feelings weren't taken into priority over what was the right thing to do, nowadays parents are like, oh, well, Jimmy just wants to, blah, 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 blah. It's okay this time. If you're like, no, it's not okay, like, no, he just cursed at that lady at the window. You know what I'm saying? He needs to go correct that right now. Oh no, it's just in his feelings. When he gets a little agitated, he doesn't know how to respond. No, what are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I kind of got lost in how I was trying to explain that, but that's the general
No,
gist.
no, that's good. I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of a helicopter parent, I think, too. Cause like Malia, she wanted to get some extra reps of running in the neighborhood. And I was like, by yourself? No, we're all running. So me and JoJo, we went out there. I didn't feel like running,
Right,
but
right,
I ain't gonna let her run by herself
right.
in our neighborhood. Like, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
it's not.
I just can't. I can't do it. Like,
And so my wife, she's a lot more, easygoing, and Lauren, who is not his mom, who is not his mom, was like, "Oh, it's fine." She let her walk to the Walmart with a friend up the. I'm like, to the Walmart, like that's 2.5 miles away. And granted, I got to ride my bike to Kroger and Publix and Target.
yeah,
It was a different day and age, and Atlanta has been, very high in like North America for sex child trafficking. And there's all this information that I know about that, like, man, it's my job to protect these kids, so and also give them the right information and encourage them, teach them biblical principles of who Jesus is so they can go out and make the right decisions for themselves. But until they get to that point where they can go make those decisions for themselves, it's our responsibility. And
Parenting is no joke, is it?
it's no joke, I wish it
No
was a lot
joke.
easier.
All
No,
those
I don't wish it
decisions.
was easier because it kind of forces us to grow also, like being
Well, that
challenged.
brings me to my next question. Let's
You know?
start with you, Isaac. What have you learned? What have your children taught you? Or what one thing? Can you name
No,
one
yeah.
thing that
So,
they've
okay.
taught you?
My children have taught me to listen and not try to be right because that's one of the biggest things that has been a struggle for me is knowing something or thinking that I know something and that the thing that I think that I know is the right thing. And
Yeah.
so as a husband, that's caused some issues going back and forth. But it wasn't until actually listening to my kids as they're growing up to Anaya and now Isaiah and Milas and realizing that what I'm trying to say isn't really getting through and I need to actually listen to
Mm-hmm.
what it is that they're saying. And
I like that.
what I've done, what I've realized is that when I actually realize or actually stop and fully listen and one thing that my mom used to preach to me was like, look, you can always come and talk to me, regardless of if I'm mad or upset. Like, I'll take a chill pill and just let you say what you need to say. I think that's really huge because I've got two boys. And I think a lot of time boys growing into men, especially in our generation and before, it was about being tough and, maybe tucking in some of those emotions and not being able to express yourself. And for my daughters, like I have to allow them to be able to get off of their chest so that they can grow and flourish into the person that they're supposed to be, not withdrawing and feeling like, my word is always what goes, even though in our house, that's the way that it kind of quote unquote should be. But you have to, as you're growing and as thoughts and ideas are coming, you have to be able to express those things. And I am learning with Anaya and with Isaiah and Milas. Naomi's 5. And so I'm taking what I'm learning with them and making that transition a little bit easier with her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been something that I'm continuing to grow into with them.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's,
Listening is huge. That's huge.
yeah.
Brandon, what is something your children have taught you?
they've taught me patience and humility. And so, kind of like what Isaac was saying, like I had to realize, like, there's some times where I'm not going to be right about everything. Sometimes I'm going to make mistakes, and it's important to let them know, like when I am wrong, to apologize to them, like, hey, my bad. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, and I'm cognizant of it, like I do try to like apologize so they know. One, like I try to set example, like this is how if you're right, you're right, you're wrong, you're wrong. And you also have to be humble sometimes. And yeah, I try to, you know, I'm trying to create an environment where they feel good about talking to me. I'm not trying to force it out of them. So I try to
Mhm.
be open with them. So they're teaching me how to be more open. Today I was telling Malia and Joelle, hey, we gotta get our ab workout in. And then she was just like, she said something. It was kind of like, I've been working out. I did 4 miles today this morning. I heard, training or whatever. I was like, that ain't got nothing to do with what we trying to do. And what she was really trying to tell me is, all she wanted to hear from me was, hey, you're doing a good job. She's like,
Yeah.
all I wanted you to say was I'm doing a good job. I'm like, you're doing a good, my bad. You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Now just get in here and work out. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Hey, just real quick.
That's wisdom. That's wisdom, Brandon. Go
Yes,
ahead, Isaac.
but that's also really great that she's able to identify what it is that she was looking for out of that and express it to you.
Yeah.
So sounds like, you guys have a head start in that department, because, man, there are people that are 60, 70 years old, 50, 40, 30, that wouldn't be able to articulate the real feeling, right? I'm saying this one thing, but what I'm looking for is this over here, and it takes therapy and, constant communication and counseling and everything else to get to that root issue. And so that's really fantastic to hear. That's all.
Yeah, I like that. Finish this sentence. I'll start with you, Brandon. I knew I was officially a dad when.
Whew. Oh, when I was waking up in the middle of the night changing diapers.
You changed a lot of diapers.
A lot of diapers. Yeah.
What about you, Isaac? I knew I was officially a dad when.
Yeah, I think that's probably when it's like day number 3 or 4 or 5 after making it home from the hospital for the first time. And those first couple of days, there's like the adrenaline of first leaving the hospital. When I first left, I was like, y'all sure you ready for us to go? We can stay for another couple of days. We can just but then getting home, it's like when the baby wakes up, I was on point, energetic, but then by day like 5 or 6, and then having to go back to work, and then the baby wakes up every 2 to 3 hours or something, and I feel bad for the mom, so it's like, okay, no, I got it, and then work came. It's like, oh yeah, okay, this is it. This is really it. Yeah.
I have another one. Finish this sentence. My kids will probably need therapy because I always
try to embarrass them. It's a goal,
Anything? Can you think of anything, Brandon?
It depends on the kid. So it'll be a combination of being too hard on them, maybe pushing them a little bit, or raising my voice too much, or yelling, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Last one. One parenting hill I will die on is.
I'm like 12. You're not hanging out at somebody else's house if I don't know their parents to feel comfortable with them. Like you're not doing it. You're not, same thing. You're not going anywhere, and you're not wearing that. Like, and I came to the house with a shirt, I was like, what the, I had to almost catch myself. Like, what do you think you're doing with that? I don't have any shirts that fit. Well, I don't care. You better put a dress on or something. Like it's, we're not. Well, we're going to the store. That's
Put one of my shirts on.
Yeah, that's what I made you do. She was upset about it, but I was like, I don't care. You're not walking out the house with that. Your mom should let you walk out the house with that. Why did you even bring it to my house? You knew what time it was. It's going for the grill.
No,
she did.
They try to push the boundaries.
I lit it on fire. Put lighter fluid on it.
You lit it on fire for real?
Yeah, in the grill. I put it on the grill, lit it on fire.
Wow. See, stricter parent.
How about you, Brandy? What parenting hill I will die on is.
You know what? So I guess I gotta say, because now she's at that age where she's hanging out at friends' houses. It's the same thing. Like, nope, I gotta hang out with your friends first. So the first time I went and hung out with the parents and the kids, at their house. They're having a couple of kids over. And so I was like, yeah, I got to hang out with them first. Like, I don't know them. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never been there. I need to get a sense of who they are. And so I think, so Malia told me that one of the kids, like the younger kid of her friend, told the dad, like, Malia's dad wants to come hang out. Like, and he was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, he just wants to get to know. He don't know us. Like, he wants to get to know us for you. And I did that twice. I did that at another friend's house. Other people let their friends go hang out. I'm like, I'm gonna come on in. Yeah. So I told her, hey, look, tell your friend to tell their parents, like, I got to come in here and check it out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
And I told Maya, if her friends have a problem with it, then that's their friend's problem. And if their friends tell their parents, I'm sure their parents will understand. And if their parents have a problem with it, then that's not your friend. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That can't be that friend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Can you name a positive quality from your parents that show up in your parenting? Be careful, Brandon.
Positive. Hey, no, that's about negative now.
I'm not asking that.
No, I mean, because, like, I do get a lot of that from you. You know, say, like, I always knew that you loved me. I always knew that you were going to be strict. I couldn't have everything I wanted. You weren't afraid to say no. You know what I'm saying? And I turned out fine. And so I take those things as, like, even if I could do it for you, I'm just going to say no just because. You're going to know that I love you and I'm going to be strict. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got all those from you. So I don't know. And my dad, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've always known that he's loved me even after y'all divorced. Like, there was never, like, anything that y'all caused for me to, like, look at one of y'all crazy. So, like, I just knew I had parents that loved me. And so, like, I'm always going to make sure, like, my kids know that I love them, but I'm not going to be afraid to, like, call them out on something or punish them for whatever reason they do something that they shouldn't be doing. Like, I just have to do it. Even sometimes when it hurts, when I don't want to do it, I just have to do it. I have to push myself to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What about you, Isaac?
From
What
my
did your
mom,
beautiful mom pass down to you?
a couple of things similar. And I say being strict, right? But what that really means, I think people look at strict as in a negative way, and it totally is not. It's setting up the proper boundaries for your kids' safety and for their guidelines and character development. And every one of my friends knew that Trudy Haskell was not playing games.
She's
Like,
not playing games.
everybody knew that.
She's one of the people I was scared of.
Everybody was. I mean, even when I got grown, my friends were saying the same thing. Nathan and Jimmy and Donna, they were like, "Hey, you weren't messing with Miss Haskell." It's like, yeah, but they all loved her.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I learned from my mom was when I got spankings, she was right there, like, look, I didn't want to have to do that, but you got it because you didn't do this and you did this and, and you knew better than to do that, and so it was always a super saturation of love. And finally, and what I think is most importantly, specifically because I have kids from different mothers. I also am a child with siblings from different mothers and the same father. But my mom took me to see my dad's dad more than my father took me to see my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather lived in Birmingham, Alabama. We were in New Jersey and we would go visit. My mom would take me, or if we were in South Carolina or here, my dad would be in the picture, not in the picture. He might be in New York or wherever he was. And my mom kept me with all of my brothers that she didn't birth, but she kept me with Hassan. And when he moved to Georgia, he moved in with us. And, I went to go stay with Ali and Mikey. I would come, so I always had the understanding that there was no such thing as half brothers or, that they were all my brothers and sisters. And it was because she allowed me she cultivated that and she nurtured that relationship with my siblings that was a precedent my dad set, but she nurtured it and she cultivated it and allowed that to take place. So we now have and have always had the strongest of relationships. And so for my kids who are in a very similar setting with different moms at different places, now they can be unified because I have been shown the example of how to go about doing it. And the only difference between me and my mom is that I finalized it by getting married and putting that covenant over our relationship in our household. So, yeah.
So let me switch gears for just a second. A couple of months ago, I think it was in March,
Mhm.
Isaac, you lost your mom.
Yeah, March 16th, 1 o'clock. p.m. When she took her last breath.
Yeah.
And it's a very real thing. Then, you know, I've had a lot of extraordinary death and loss in my life, a lot of very close people. I thought that the amount of loss that I've experienced would somehow benefit or help in, the passing of my mom. And that's totally not the case, like maybe it has, in some way, you know, just to know that, focusing on Christ is the thing that gets you through it. But there are very tough moments, but there's not really been very bad days, but there have been, very tough moments.
Yeah.
But the biggest blessing through that all, like I keep telling people, is that I was able to get closure. I was able to be there when she passed. Like Brandon was there with me, my wife, my brother Ali, we were there. And it happened, actually, my wife went to go get us all lunch and I decided to stay in, not go to the lobby and eat for a moment. And that's when she took her last breath. But I was there and I, yeah, I told her she was my superhero before she passed. I was able to say these things and I know that she heard me. I know that as she was exiting, that she was surrounded by love. And so that's something that I hold on to. And also the fact that she never got mad at God, even though she was dealing with an extraordinarily difficult
Mhm.
diagnosis, and that she just pressed in and pressed in and pressed in. So it's like God allowed her. 'Cause I got to a point kind of like, you're talking about Malia, thinking that she knows more, right? I got to that point with my mom. It's like, yeah, I'm in my 40s, I'm married, I got kids, like I got this, I'm going to church every week. I'm involved with, our ministry, our small group. I've got, the Wednesday church service online. I'm involved with these different things. I'm good, but she was still able to show me how to walk out the most difficult of situations, and
Mhm.
being there watching her deteriorate in such a way, but still watching her wholeheartedly dive into the word and into Christ. Gave me the blueprint. Like you always know it, right? The word tells you this is how you go about it and how you get through it. But to experience her, face it, I think about the disciples writing letters in prison, because she was in her own prison, but she was still writing scripture down. She was still leaving me little notes and, you know, writing the words and listening to gospel music every day. So I'm grateful that I was able to get that.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah,
were her caregiver,
yeah.
and I heard you talking about it one time, and everybody knows who's ever done that, that that's a challenge. I don't care who the parent is, who you're giving the care to. Caregiving is not an easy thing to do, but found some you found some really meaningful experiences as a result of caregiving for your mom. Can you share that with us?
Uh, Well, first and foremost, I got to give a lot of thanks to my wife, who also took on such a large responsibility with my mom. But just some of the more difficult things was trying to always make sure that I was there. I used to tell myself that, man, if it ever comes to the point my mom needs to go to a facility or something, like, no, we're not doing that. And I'm grateful that God didn't allow it to happen because, that's been something that as it, progressed towards the end, it became more of what the reality was looking like. And I was beating myself up internally because I was like, man, I have always told myself that this isn't, but it got to a point where it's like, you can't do it anymore. But to the question more specifically, is really just the understanding that Jesus is the way. And what I mean by that is there was a time, even a year ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and especially before I got the boys back, before we got full custody of the boys back, where if my mom was gone, I don't know if I would have been able to handle that. Like that would have been something that was debilitating. Yeah, that I don't know if I would have been able to handle it. And I would like to tell myself that I would, but I don't know. But after dealing with my mom, after seeing the courage that she handled the situation with, after seeing the strength that she operated with, it filled me up, and then it also forced me to go into the word. So we did a fast a few times, right? Pressed into the word even more. And as I was pressing into the word, there's like a level of peace that started to come over me, over the household, strength that starts to come in and seep in. And that's kind of the biggest thing that I got out of it was the reality that, and I've experienced it before in some areas, but I've not faced anything like this. I've had loss of income or, you know, some minor health stuff and family members and friends, but it's nothing like a mom. And so that was the biggest hurdle to be faced with. But I know now that there's a peace that surpasses all understanding, and I know that it's real. And so when everybody looks for a big booming voice out of the clouds, or we want God to show up, with like lotto tickets and everything else. But the fact that I can go to sleep and wake up in the morning and not having cried myself to sleep, sucking my thumb all day and all night, the fact that I can continue going forward and have conversations even like this one and show my kids and have such a wealth of information to pass on to them. And the fact that they saw how I'm handling this, and I was able to incorporate them in the process with praying for her at night or any of those things. I think that's the biggest part was they saw the journey of my mom. And so it was beneficial to me. And I'm grateful that they were able to see it and see how I handled it and see how she handled it. Because you bring up a child in the way they should go and they won't depart far.
That's beautiful. I was going to ask you how it had changed your perspective on family, and you just laid that out beautifully. That your children were there to see you love on your mom, and you got to spend some time with her that a lot of people who are not caregiving don't get that opportunity. And you have some really beautiful memories and things that your children witnessed. They actually witnessed your love for your mom, which has to impact them forever,
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brandon, you lost your brother about a year or so ago. And how has that loss impacted you and your family? And how has it taught you? What has it taught you about resilience and things that we've talked about? Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was the way it affected me. It was really traumatic when it happened, and the time that it happened, like I didn't think I would ever recover from it because I never experienced anything like that before. And so it was just, it was the two hardest phone calls to make was to you and dad. After I found Herman, and I think I called you first, and I had to let the police officer tell you I couldn't do it, and then when it came to my dad, I felt like I needed to tell him personally, and so yeah, it was just rough. So it's like any tragedy, you can't avoid tragedy in life, and so I think the hope is that this thing that happened, to you or to somebody you love, or that affects your family in such a way that it'll one day it'll get better. There'll be healing, and then you'll be better because of it. I think that's my hope for everything. And so it changed my perspective on really, it's kind of like, like what it's like was saying, you can read about how, Paul sat in prison and wrote those letters, to the Ephesians, to the church in Philippi and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, until you actually go through it or see somebody go through it, like she was, like I said, there's a really good analogy, like she's trapped in her own body. If you know anything about ALS, she really was trapped in her own body, but she was still able to not do what Job's wife said, like just curse God and die. She never
Yeah.
did that. She only blessed God until her end. And so, it's we want to, you know, I just wanted to be strong for everybody, especially you, because I think you took it the hardest, and Dad took it the hardest too. It's just I don't know. I think what I learned from it was we can face really hard situations and get through it and be better because of it. So now, I'm more equipped to help somebody that's going through loss, because I've been through it. And like before that, actually I knew that I was not good in that area of like helping somebody who suffered a loss. I was just really bad about it. There was man, my cousin CJ, when I remember when her mom passed away, it was my first day of working at Infinity. Her funeral was gonna be my first day like working like my real job after I got out of college. And I was like, oh, I can't miss my first day of like this job. But I didn't have the wherewithal to at least call her and tell her, so I felt so guilty. I just never said anything. And I kind of carried that guilt. And then even when Juanita's husband, Leslie Audrey's dad, when he passed, I didn't know what to say. And so I didn't say anything at all. And I regret that. And, I carried that guilt with me for a long time. And so I understood. So when Herman passed, we had some family members who didn't call or say anything. They might have said something later to like, we just didn't know what to say. Like I totally understood. So I wasn't upset. And that friends like, I didn't know whether to call you or text you. I was like, bro, just, so I tell everybody like, just reach out any kind of way. You don't have to have the answers. You're not going to have answers, but it just helped just when your community comes around you. And so yeah, now I'm more sensitive to that. So now I'm able to, to comfort people in those times. And me and you, we had like a bunch of those conversations. And just, just the journey of coming across people who like really said things that you just shouldn't say to somebody who's grieving, and just, and being able to forgive those people and move on and, still try to love people through that. So it's like on so many different layers, things we've got stronger in different areas. And so that's kind of
Yeah.
my take on it.
What has your friendship meant during this difficult season for both of you?
Well, like I said, Brandon was there the day. I mean, I don't even know what time it was when I talked to you, 6, whatever time it was. And he was like, all right, I'm on the way. We're talking, you know, by the time the sun was coming up, it wasn't even up yet, and Brandon was already on the way. And I remember when Herman passed, you called from the spot, from his house. And it was like an ice storm that night, and I was about to get on the road and head on over. To answer the question, it just means absolutely everything. You know, from a lot of different levels too, because I know that my wife is there for me, and but my wife didn't have the relationship. She doesn't have the same amount of experience that Brandon has, and there aren't really any other people other than my brothers and like cousins that do, you know what I mean? And so to know that there's somebody that can not only sympathize but can empathize with you and what you're going through to the best capacity of anybody else that's around, you know. Just mentioned, being married for 17 years, and knowing Xanta for 20 or whatever it was, or 18, whatever it was, whatever, right? But we're talking about 31, 32 years of knowing each other, It's like that's a significant period of time. That's a relationship, a brotherhood, a bond that like most people don't actually have. I was talking to my mom once. She's like, you're really great to have one person that can like walk through different stages of life with you. And so that's it. It means everything. There's very little more than like your wife and your kids, like, and then parents, like outside of that, that's really, the hierarchy of things. Like there's God, obviously, right? There's your wife, your kids, and then there's like a brother, you know what I'm saying? And that's it. Like, and then, people go however else they go.
Yeah, it's like he's the one person in my life that I would say pre-married. It's like if I had to bury a body somewhere, I know I could call him. He'd help me do it. He'd bring the shovels. We would get done. He'd keep the secret. Like he's the only person I know that with 100% certainty, I let's do it. I got the car. I'm gonna get the car for somebody. I'm gonna do. I know it's a very crude example, but if it came down to that, like he would be the person to do that,
Yeah.
and I would have no doubts. Like anybody else, I'm going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not. We might be at. So
Yeah. Ride or die is what they call it, right?
That's right. That's it. Yeah.
Ride or die. So last question about this, either of you or both of you could answer. What would you want your children to understand in terms of handling grief and healing? What do you want your children to understand?
I would want them to know how to hang on to their faith in those type of hard times, because that has to be the foundation. You don't have a solid foundation under you, like things can fall apart. People walked away from God because somebody died. People have, just different things that happen. And so I would want them to understand that, listen, bad things are going to happen. We live in a world, we live in a fallen world, bodies deteriorate, violence. I want to, in the most appropriate way, like paint a picture of like how the world is and give them little nuggets at certain milestones of their life. But I want them to know that no matter what happens, you have to keep your relationship with Jesus no matter what. And that you have to keep community around you. We talked about this on a past episode, like the importance of community and having people around you. Because sometimes you're not going to be strong enough to hold yourself up. You're going to have to lean on people when hard times come. You're going to have to get, wisdom from a multitude of counselors. Like you're going to have to see a therapist sometimes. And it's okay to do that. So, I want them to be able to express their feelings freely and feel safe, to do that and then learn how to keep people in their inner circle that they can do that with.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with everything you just said. Yeah, that's it. How to keep your foundation of Christ, centered, and not to isolate or to get lost in yourself. To lean in on that. You did everything right in the head. I think those are probably the most important things. Make sure you got some. One of my mentors, Coach Mike Lee, or just Mike Lee, he always says, man, just make sure you keep some Jesus dudes around you. Make sure your kids got some Jesus dudes around you. And so, and real quick to go back, that's another thing that my mom taught me. And by way of making sure that she knew who my friends' parents were, she was making sure that the kids I was hanging out with were kids like like that my friends were the right people to be around. It makes all the difference in the world. And so that's the part, because community, your church, but then also, maybe they're off at college or they're somewhere else. Maybe they don't have a church home that they've bought into and have established a very firm relationship with, when they're in their whatever time of life it is. But if they have those relationships with the people that they can reach out to right now, that and are secure in the fact that, not only are they good people at heart, but that they're grounded in the same core values that you have, that's what I also hope,
Yeah.
because but there's a lot of good people in the world, and a lot of them will end up being friends, and so that's great as it is. But that can be a little wonky when somebody says, "Oh, the universe is this, or this is that," like, nah, Jesus, the Holy Spirit is going to fill you what you need, and so very specifically, in those moments, you need to be reminded of that, not just that the universe works itself out, or that the good feelings and vibes is going to no. You know what I'm saying? No.
I really appreciate you all for those heartfelt responses. I've watched you both, and you're an inspiration to your children and to many, to your friends. But your children are watching, and you should be proud. Your mom would be proud, Isaac, and I'm proud of you both. I have
Thank you.
some rapid fire questions for you.
Let's get it.
Favorite family vacation, Brandon.
Beach.
Okay, Isaac.
really anywhere that we're all together. But I mean, this was my first time this past week taking all of my kids at the same time. So that was really the biggest thing for me. So this past week, we went to DC and we went to Orlando. I don't really care about the where. It was just the fact that we were all together, and it was something different. I hadn't experienced something different with all of my kids. So that was really great.
Best Father's Day gift ever received.
Good loving from my wife.
Just be honest about it.
Hey, that's yeah. I mean, that's it. You can't beat that. But probably just some hugs, just some hugs from the kids, waking up, happy Father's Day, just a little stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't care about the things so much, but
Yeah. One word that describes fatherhood. One,
fulfilling.
fulfilling.
Yeah, difficult but fulfilling. Yeah, it is. There's those little moments when you said one word, I'm sorry.
Responsibility.
Oof,
Responsibility.
that's a good word.
A lesson every son should learn. You both have sons. What is a lesson that every son should learn?
Know your identity. I had this conversation with a friend of mine, but it's rapid fire. So yeah, know who you are, know why you're here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really the most important thing, to be honest. Finding your value, knowing your value, because if you don't know your value before the world tells you, then the world's going to tell you your value, and that's what you'll adopt.
That's good. A lesson every daughter should learn.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, I would say same thing. You're God's daughter. And if you go down the rabbit hole and discover what that means, a lot of the other things that come at you, you'll be able to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What brings you joy in the space you're in right now? What brings you joy?
Peace. I just like peace. That's all I care about.
Peace is
Protect my
important. It's not what brings you joy.
Doing things outside of work. So filming podcasts, like when we get together and film podcasts, that's something that brings me joy. I can't make this rapid fire. I'm sorry. Like helping feed homeless at the church, that brings me joy. When I do the tune-up on Wednesdays, like it's just when I'm kicking it with the kids, we're throwing softballs, you know, when there's something that's going on that's outside, or just being at home and, not those are the things that bring me joy.
Yeah.
Family, just spending time doing something else. But it's better when I think or know that I'm doing something positive for somebody else.
You probably answered this in one form or another, but I'll go ahead and ask it. You can give me a brief answer if you want to. What does your faith have to do with your role as a father?
everything. I can't do it without God.
Yeah.
It's too hard. You know what I'm saying? Like I can see all my imperfections and see how like bad I can hurt my kids. If I didn't lean into God, probably get a little bit messed up. So yeah.
That's real. Yeah. So growing up, you know, I've always had a relationship with my dad. Is a great guy, great person, but he wasn't at home, So there was two tracks. It was either, the good TV shows like the Cosby Show or the, whatever, Family Matters, or there was, you know, movies or, gangster rap or something else that was going to determine which direction my fatherhood was going to be based out of if it wasn't for the church. If I didn't know and if I wasn't shown specifically what it was to be a man of integrity, to be able to, follow Christ and Christ's likeness. So that has changed what society has told me was okay, or what to be, and refocused it back onto what it should be, period. And then when it's centered when it's centered around Christ, it doesn't matter what time of life it is. I was watching Archie Bunker a couple of days ago, and he's using the N-word and cursing, and him and George Jefferson are going back and forth. And that was perfectly fine, right? In the 70s or whatever that show came out, 60s, right? It it was, but you couldn't have that show today because society says that's not okay, right? But the Bible is the Bible. It was the same then, it's the same now, right? It doesn't matter if it was 20 years ago, it doesn't matter if it was 100 years from now. It's still going to be something that you can root yourself into and be firmly rooted and produce fruit. And so I'm not going to base it off of anything else. That's what it's got to be.
What are you most grateful for?
I'm most grateful for being loved, having, all as somebody that spent 4 years without my two boys, having full custody of them again, and for them to be able to experience, this Father's Day with me and with my daughters, my wife, that's really, having my family complete is what is the most.
When is the new baby due?
January.
January. Okay.
Yep. So, and I have a son who's born in January 8th. So hopefully the days will be different. Well, hopefully it'll be close enough that we can do one birthday. There you go.
Brandon, what are you most grateful for this Father's Day?
Oh, man, just everything that God blessed me with, good health, healthy kids, my wife, my mom, my dad, my friends, my home, my cars. Even though they're getting old, like they still work, what I'm saying? Like every little thing, nice weather. I try to look at all the small things, just thank God for them. So I'm just grateful to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate you all sharing from your heart. It was wonderful conversation, a really wonderful conversation. And thank you for the difficult answers, the funny answers. Thank you for giving us more insight about you individually and the friendship, the powerful friendship that you have and that you share. And thank you to my listening audience for being with us for this Father's Day episode. And we hope you'll join us again on Get Real with Alexis. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.